Thanks for joining me again for another video. It's been a long time since the last one. And again I'm looking at doing another Song of Ice and Fire video. This time featuring the Tully Sworn Shields. So I've had a miniature sitting on my desk for the last year or something I think now. And so he's all prepped up and primed up to go. And I've just mounted him on a little base, little plinth. And I've magnetised the base as well, which I'll show you in a minute. So for priming, you can go either two ways. I just went with a dark primer. I just used the surface primer from Vallejo, but you can use black if you wanted to, or another dark grey colour. So, and then there's the magnetised part. So there's just got one magnet underneath the base and one on the plinth. And I found that just a good way to have a sturdy base and to work with. So yeah, for brushes, if you're looking for a really good quality brush, I picked up these recently. They're from the Artist Opus web store in the UK, and they're probably the best brushes I've used in many years. So yeah, if you're looking for a good brush, I recommend those ones. I'll be using the size 2 for most of the video, but sometimes I switch it out with a size 1. So to start off with, we're going to use a dark grey blue. This is actually a Vallejo Air colour, and I like using this colour for when I'm using greys for metals or for armour or what have you. So yeah, stick a bit on the wet palette. If you've got a wet palette, I recommend using that. Then we're using some turquoise as a game colour, but you know, it doesn't have to be Vallejo, any brand will do. Because the Tully's armour is quite green in the illustrations on the box cover and that kind of thing, so I want to keep it the same. So just mixing those with an old brush, those two colours together on your palette. And I'm just going to give it a nice base coat. Just keeping it fairly thin out. I just mixed a bit of water into that base coat, so just keeping it nice and thin down. Probably end up giving a couple of coats. You can see there already that it's quite a nice greenish blue colour. So we've got the whole model base coated now in that base colour now, so what we want to do now is sort of step it up into the next lighter grey, and I think the next colour that I want to complement my base colour would be the Mirage Blue, another Vallejo colour. Basically it's just a mid-tone grey blue or bluish grey. Okay, just mixing that into just the side of my base colour, so I'm keeping the original like the base colour that I used, just in case I need to go back and fix things or blend things out as I go along. So we can now work on the raised areas of where we painted previously. So just concentrating on the shield first. Yeah, just keeping our brush strokes nice and even, and keeping our hand steady if you can, and just sort of concentrating on lining in our first highlight just on the raised area of the shield. The lower part of the shield will be naturally darker, as the light wouldn't hit that part of the shield as much, so I want to keep that dark. This is a unit that I've really wanted to get on the table. I've used it a few times, but unfortunately they've been unpainted. I've only painted one guy, and I did that maybe 12 months ago, I think. And then I just lost the impetus to carry on with it, and they got sort of shelved and put aside. And it was only just today that I got them out, and I thought I better go back and make another video to get me back in the swing of things. So I got my setup with my camera again, and just sort of ease my way back into it. So hopefully after this video is done and we're finished with the Tullys, the next one I want to do maybe will be the Outriders. I've already got one unit of Stark Outriders painted, but I want to do another video looking at the cavalry miniatures, because we haven't done those yet. So painting horses, and they're such beautiful figures too. So just keeping my highlights just to the edges of the armour, on the shoulder pads, just all in the raised areas, just like as we put any other highlight on there. Just working my way around to the back of the miniature now. Those back part of the legs, just the top areas will be lighter, and on the other leg, probably the bottom part of the leg will be lighter. And we can always go back and intermix the base color we had, just if you want to blend in parts of those two colors. I actually ended up trading this unit for a unit of my Boltons. I got rid of all my Boltons and I traded them for the Outriders and the Tully unit and another unit of Berserkers. I just love my Starks, and I'm not so keen on the Boltons. They've got some nice figures, don't get me wrong, but and maybe I should have kept them just for painting purposes, just for the videos, but well, I can ask my friend here if he can lend me a few figures. I can paint them up just for the painting purposes and doing the tutorials on them. So I'm sure he won't mind if he's going to get some painted miniatures out of it. Oh, I do have Roose Bolton, I think. So I've still got the Neutral Heroes box set. Yeah, so I can always do him. So I do have one left, and I might have a couple more actually, because I've got when I got the Kickstarter, I got the Kickstarter exclusives, and I think there's another Ramsey in there, maybe alternative Ramsey sculpt in there. But like the Lannisters will eventually get done. I just, I think I just suffered a bit of burnout from doing all the Starks that I just needed to change things, as you do when you're painting big projects like this. You know, painting like a mass battle army is not a sort of light-hearted adventure, even though they're only like, you know, four cavalry figures to a base or 12 figures to a tray. There's still quite a lot of work involved in it, so you can get to a point where you think, oh, I just need a break, I just need to change, and for me that change was going back to my Dwarf army and my Orc and Goblin army for Warhammer. So it's always good to come back, you know, feeling refreshed and having new ideas, or just having more inspiration to complete something. And I know when I finish this unit, I'll be looking forward to getting another game in. And for our next highlight up, we're going to use a Stonewall Grey. Just mix it into our Mirage Blue, and then we go back over again and now sort of putting more definition to the armor sections, and starting with the shield again, just on the very raised edges. Just line those in, and all the other details on the shield too. Okay, so we've got, yeah, it looks a lot more defined now. And right at the bottom edge of that shield, we're just going to line in a bit of that highlight in there to pick out where the light would hit. And right along the center, if you feel. Just using the edge of the brush there, not the tip, just the edge. So just like on its flat side, and brushing along the sword edge. Which is much easier than doing it with trying to do it with the tip of your brush. Just going back now, just trying to even out the colours of the blade itself. It was a bit patchy, so I wanted to get it sort of more cleaner. I'll go back and line the edging again. That paint's quite old, so it's got some dried bits in it, unfortunately, so just had to use my finger just to even them out, or just rub them off. Okay, so it's got more definition now. Now just go through and just repeat that and pick out all the other details of all the parts of his armour. Of course, there's his face and his pouches and his belt, and there's some like strapping on the sword. I won't do that in this video. This video is just concentrating on just purely on the armor. I'll come back for another second take, and we'll finish him up with his other remaining details. You can also, as an alternative, if you have an airbrush, you could airbrush all the base colors onto the miniatures first, and then, you know, adding the Mirage Blue to that initial base coat, you could then do another highlight on top of that if you wanted to. If you wanted to speed it up and then go back to the third highlight using the Stonewall Grey, and do it that way. So this, I'm just obviously doing this by hand, so if you're doing it, you know, if you maybe got 2 or 3 units of them, you know, you probably won't want to do this. I've only got 1 unit of them, and I think I'm quite happy just to do them by hand. But if you know, if you've got the power of the airbrush, you know, use the power of the airbrush. Go and do that way. Do it that way, as I've done with many other of the miniatures so far, using the airbrush as a primer mostly. But if I wanted to put down, especially for these guys, because they're 90% armor, it's probably just a good idea to do it with the airbrush. Maybe I will do that because I've got another, you know, 10 more guys to do. Maybe I will go and use the airbrush for the next 10 after this tutorial is done. And not to be confused, there is some other paint on that palette, which I was using for another miniature previously to this. So yeah, they're not actually part of this miniature process. So I thought I'd just mention that, just in case you're wondering why there's like a orangey brown and a flesh tone there. It's got nothing to do with this miniature. So I think he's sort of shaping up nicely now. A bit more definition to him. So you know, the scales are lined in. Okay, so here we're going to add some whole red as like a wash to his armor. Now, you could use whole red, you could use a different color if you just wanted, like, to use a really dark blue-green color, darker than the base color, for example. But I like whole red because there's something just about that color that just works really well with dark metallics. It's just, yeah, it really suits it, I find, anyway. So just very carefully, I've just thinned out a very thin layer of that whole red, and now I'm just applying that, I think with the number 1 brush this time, just into the recesses of the shield and the crevices of the armor. I think that's already made a big difference already, just adding that little bit of whole red there. But you know, if you want to skip that step, that's fine. You don't have to do that. You can just leave it as it is. It looked just as nice without the hole in. So. I mean, you could probably get away with painting this unit without adding the faces or all the other baggage and stuff that's hanging on him as well, like his pouches on the back, and just do the base, and they'll look just fine as is, really. So it's getting in there between the scales, and anywhere where there's a recess in the armour. I'm just going over the parts where there's leather, just so when I do the second video that's already sort of base coated and sort of standing out from the other details, so I know where to start from. Yep, so I think he looks pretty good so far. I'm just going to add a few more layers of that, or glazes of that whole red. I want to finally pick out all those highlights with a nice white, which I've already put in the palette there already, ahead of time. So just mixing that back into either your Mirage Blue or the Stonewall Grey, just so it's not white kind of thing. It's not really stark white. It's mixed back into the base colour or the previous colour, and yeah, just sort of just carefully lining in our details on this shield and on other parts of his armour. Yeah, I'm just using a size 2, but you can use a size 1 or a smaller brush if you need to. And remember, just keeping the areas that you're painting small, so you know you're not sort of lining in everything. You're sort of just picking out just the areas where you really want the light to be the brightest or the shiniest on the armour. And yeah, just sort of picking out all the little scales on his armor. I'm just doing that by hand. You can, you know, if you really wanted to, you can dry brush it, but I just find just lining it in is just a bit neater. But yeah, you just do whatever you feels best for you. I do realise that this kind of painting is not really like a beginning sort of tutorial on how to paint miniatures. I may actually go back and do some, like real basic sort of painting technique tutorials in the future or something. But I suppose these are more sort of like intermediate levels of painting, with me actually doing like wet blending and that kind of thing. And but I'm sort of keeping the blending minimal when I'm doing these guys. If I was doing like Rackham miniatures, for example, the old confrontation miniatures, I'd be doing a lot of blending, like really intensive blending, using lots of layers of highlights. But for these, I'm just keeping them really simple, trying to keep them as simple as possible. So I'm just getting like a base color down, a mid-tone, a highlight, and another highlight on top of that, because I'm painting an entire army, so it's not like an individual model, like something for those smaller skirmish games that have like really high detail models. Okay, so I think that we're almost pretty much done here with this guy. And this is the final step of the highlights. So you don't have to do it with the white if you don't want to. If you just do it with the light grey, that's fine. Just stop it there. Let that be it. But yeah, no, I'm quite happy with this stage now. Now, in the next video, I might do a light glaze of the turquoise on the armor to make it a little bit more greener. So we'll see how we go. So I think the first thing I'll concentrate on is just getting all those leathers done. Anything that's brown, basically. So to do that, I think I'll put a base coat of the German cam black. It's a Flames of War range paint, but you can, I think they're in a regular paint line as well for model colour. And we'll combining that, we'll use some flat earth as well for like our mid-tone. Some nice ochre. I think it's germ cam ochre to highlight that with. I'm just getting all the paints ready on the palette now to save time. And the last one will be the green grey. I like to use this for like a highlight instead of white for doing browns. I just find it looks nice. Okay, yeah, so just using a size 2 brush for this. Some people ask me what size brushes I'm using at times. But yeah, use a smaller one if you need to. I always find the larger brushes, like the larger bristle brushes, like in time, I've just noticed that they hold paint better and for longer. So just mixing the flat earth with the base colour, just adding like another layer over the cam black brown, just adding our first highlight to that. lighter shades and picking out the highlights, basically all the lines on the sections that you're painting. Just paint on the top ridge or side ridge if it's the scabbard. Yeah, just to define the details. On the pouch is a little bit different. You also want to just pick out the raised areas there, and maybe your the lines need to be a bit more broader, just to catch more of the space. And those finer details is a bit easier because they can just line it in. And I found, if you forgot about the strapping on the inside of the shield, those hand straps, so don't really need to do those, but I thought I'll just, for completeness sake, I'll just do those as well. The green grey is just to, again, just put that final edged highlight on. So now we want to do the flesh colours. So I've got this rose brown colour which I quite like, because it's like a dwarf flesh, like a Citadel dwarf flesh. It's quite nice and dark. It's got like a grey in there as well. And using red, just plain red, it's quite a dark red, which I quite like. And sunny skin tone. Okay, so any kind of flesh tone will do for that. It's done in red, so I've just got some of that that initial red I put down there on the palette and mixing with a bit of the black brown. Just make it nice, like a nice dark base coat. So it's got on I think every single miniature has it on the back of their miniature like that, and they've got two little side parts on the leggings as well. So now I'm adding some Luftwaffe grey, like a blue grey. And using a larger brush this time, just changing brushes with like a red grass size 2 brush. We wanted to start doing that chainmail, so I forgot about the chainmail. lines, so I'm using that as a base. And this is just like a wet brush technique. It's not like a dry brush. I'm not actually taking the paint off. I'm just putting some on the tip of the bristles, and I'm just sort of brushing down over the chainmail detail, and that'll pick all the details out. I don't tend to dry brush very much at all. So now, from yesterday, that's one of the reasons why having a wet palette's good. You got your paint that you had yesterday, the mixes are still there. So using that Mirage, what's it called? Mirage Blue that we used yesterday for the armor, that mid-tone. Yeah, I'm just using that, and then again, same thing, just putting it onto the tip of the brush and then just lightly brushing over the details to pick them out. Some white into that Mirage Blue as well. I was using some red last night, so that's actually called a flat red from Vallejo model color. Okay, so that's the color I'm using, and yeah, I'm just going to mix that into the base color for our first mid-tone highlight. And then using that mix, we're just going to just paint down some lines. Just to pick out all the details there. I usually just put because it's cloth, I usually just put like 3 lines there to just define the ripples and the folds of the cloth. But on the front you can just outline the edging. That'd be just fine. For the final highlight, I'm just going to add some of my sunny skin tone. And now I'm going to just do the face, so we're just going to add some more sunny skin tone to the original mix we used. Pick out some like the nose and the eyebrows and cheekbones and lips and chin. With the PVC models, the face details aren't that great anyway, so you don't have to really be all that elaborate on the highlights. And with these guys, you can't really see the faces that well either, so it's not such a big problem, so I quite like that. To do the back pouches, I'm going to add blue to those, so I'm just going to use a brush and once they're all covered in blue, we're going to add some of that green grey to our Prussian blue mix. Just get a mid-tone in there. So like always, we're just going to cover most of the parts there. I just want to get a nice softer blue. And yeah, just paint the highlights at the top there again. Satchels he's got on his strapped to his back there, so just doing that plus a bit of extra green grey just to pick out the details and the highlights, and it's done. And I think he looks pretty much ready to go now. As I've got that Luftwaffe blue, I'm just going to paint the base, so that's just a Luftwaffe blue paint on the base, and I've just used black for the trim, and I need to apply the snow basing as well to finish it off, but I'll wait until all 12 are finished. And before previously, maybe about 9-10 months ago, I painted this guy up initially, so I actually forgot the colour schemes I used for this guy, so I was happy to see that they matched fairly well, but he's been given like a turquoise wash, so what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to get the turquoise I used last night or yesterday. I'm going to really thin that out with some water to make it like a wash, and then just wash it over the metals, because I want that sort of a green tinge. Just sporadically just putting down thin glazes, not covering everything, just giving a sort of a tint here and there. Yeah, try not to overdo it, otherwise you lose all the highlights that you had initially, so you don't want to do that. Chainmail, I'm just going to add just a very thin wash of that whole red just into the links and into the crevices of the chainmail, just to finish that part off. And also on his face, I think I'm just going to give it a quick wash of that whole red too, just to pick out any details that I've missed. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care, and happy painting.